Good evening. I'm Crimson with Shine a Light in the Dark, and I'm here with the amazing Severed Angel with Wayne and Lou, and they have been so gracious as to come on here tonight and give us a little moonlight for the evening. So, guys, can y'all tell me what y'all are currently working on at this time?
Ooh, should we tell her? Is it too early?
Yeah, why not? We already announced it on our social media.
We're already working on our fourth album. Yeah, we just started that on I think last week, like Monday or Tuesday, or whatever. So we already got like three songs starting to be worked on. So yeah, we haven't stopped since the first album got recorded. So we just keep going and going.
We got nothing better to do, so
No.
we're just recording and recording.
Yeah.
So, y'all are going like full steam ahead. I love that.
No, yeah, yeah. If we, you know what the problem is, we don't tour, we don't do any shows, we don't do all that stuff. So there's what else are we going to do? Might as well just keep being creative and keep doing music because we have fun doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So we just keep doing it.
Yeah, logistically, it just doesn't make any sense to tour nowadays, especially considering the rising prices of gas and transportation and lodging and even food. You got to factor all those things into it. Plus, four of us are in New York, one of us is in Pennsylvania, but it hasn't stopped us from being creative. I'd rather put out quality music that people enjoy. That's my preference, anyways.
No, I love that. And speaking about putting out like quality music that people enjoy, one of the things I believe that, music is like an entity, right? Its own entity. It never means to misunderstand us or to misjudge us. It doesn't care who we are or where we're from. It only wants us to feel safe, seen, and heard in that moment. And the artist does an amazing job at taking us into their world, right? And allowing us to experience those feelings. When y'all first started music, and even now, what is the kind of world y'all wanted to create ultimately through your music?
I'll let you answer that, Lou.
So the funny thing about the formation of Severed Angel, I had known Wayne for the better part of 20 years. We were both in the same club scene, but we were in separate scenes. He was playing in like the more traditional metal crowds, and I was playing in the more like hardcore type crowds, except the the music that some of my bandmates wanted to create was emo, and I don't write that style. And I did the best that I could to try to sort of compromise with everyone, but I just wasn't happy. Then I fell in love, got married, with my wife 15 years. Wayne and I stayed friends. He got into podcasting before I did, and then he asked me to join Rat Style Review. We started doing some cover songs together during the pandemic because we thought it would be fun. And then the next thing you know, he asked me if I wanted to write original music with him. And I had just gotten burnt out by the whole band thing. And I was just like, nah, man, I don't have anything in me. And this was around the time that I was unemployed looking for a job. And, my responsibility is to my family first. But Wayne's persistent, but he's also incredibly supportive because up until that time, I had just lost my mom to COVID. And I was going through a crazy time because I was like, I was trying to take care of my family, trying to take care of my mom. Things ended up working out. She passed away peacefully, and I did end up finding a full-time job, and I was able to take care of my family again. But Wayne kept pushing me to write original music with him. And I'm like, dude, I don't think I have it in me anymore. And the next thing he's like, well, you must have written something that's worthy. And I sent him a song that I had recorded back in 2010. I wrote and recorded it from my wife's cousin, who at the time was an MMA fighter. And I asked Wayne, do you think you could do something with this? And he said, oh, yes, we can. And the next thing I know, I found out that he had Alex Rapetti on vocals, George Dimitri on bass, and Mark Muchnick on keyboards. And the next thing I know, we finished a song in like a week, and the creative juices kind of started flowing. So I have to thank Wayne for being a persistent bastard and not giving up on me, because if it didn't happen, Severed Angel would not be what it is today. The first album really was a way of me coping the loss of my parents and my brother in 13 years. My brother was the reason why I wanted to become a musician in the first place. He was a bassist, and I always wanted to play with him, but I never had a chance to. A couple of times we had a jam, but we never took it to stage. So the way I look at the first album of Severed Angel, for me personally, is that it was a coping mechanism of dealing with the grief of losing, you know, 3 of my immediate family members. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know where it came from, but it just flowed so naturally. You know, just like, you know, when I listen to the songs on the first album, it's like I can remember where I was. I can remember the headspace that I was in. I can remember sitting down and writing the lyrics for A New Beginning and just thinking of my wife and how much she helped me through that grieving process, and how, you know, the line in the song says "Severed Angel no more," but it was because of all that Severed Angel was formed. So it was of me paying homage to my wife and me paying homage to my bandmates for helping me get out of that funk. Severed Angel for me is sonic therapy, to quote Peter Steele of Typo Negative. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if I'm just babbling right now. Wayne's just nodding along.
Sounds good to me.
No, I think that's beautiful. And number one, I'm so sorry for the loss of your
Thank you.
parents, and even for your brother, that you never had that opportunity to take it to the stage with him.
It's all right. I got 4 new brothers, so it's all good.
You know, I was kind of while you were fixing your background, I was talking to Wayne a little bit about how, like, I think that's really awesome that y'all do have like such that close group, because, you know, life can be so hard, so it's really important to have those that you can lean on, and like you were almost even saying, like, you know, that can continue to push us and see the best of us when we're struggling, or when life gets hard. So I guess my question would be, like, because the album was so vulnerable and so raw, what advice would you give to people in order to be able to stand in their own authenticity, to be able to do that, because vulnerability is so hard?
Wayne, you answer this one.
Oh, she's giving me the hard questions here.
Would you rather me? I don't mind.
You're better at answering these kind of questions.
You know, it's like all of us work, you know, so we all have incomes that help us pay our bills. You know, myself and Wayne and Mark, we're all dads and husbands. The music is, I don't want to call it secondary, because, you know, Severed Angel is as important to us as our families. But I think what happens is, because we have the 5 of us as each other's support system and critics, you know, like Wayne will be like, you could do better at something. He said, or he'll say, that's it. You know, like, we kind of have, it's just the 5 of us. There's no outside sources. So the only gauge for success that we have is, do we like it enough that we want to put it on an album or release it as a single? I think too many people are worried about just pleasing everybody else, when in all actuality, the only ones you really got to please is yourself. And the best thing about being a recording musician today, you don't have to pay anybody to do it. You could do it yourself. I mean, I'm speaking to you from my home recording studio. I got all my guitars behind me. So this is where I work my full-time job, and this is where I record the riffs. So there's so much more fun, and it's really liberating to know that, you know, the only test you have to gauge is, are you happy with it? I think we've gone past the point of, you know, you're not successful unless you have a record deal and a #1 album. We're not all meant to be Taylor Swift, and that's okay. We're perfectly happy being Severed Angel in our own skin.
I'm Taylor Swift, though.
That money would be nice, especially that bonus money for the truckers.
Good.
But, you know, I mean, we all have full-time gigs, so,
yeah,
you know, we're good. And you know, that's why Severed Angel is still fresh to us, because it's not a chore. Don't treat your music like it's a chore.
It's so easy for us to do stuff from home too, and that's why we record so much, because we can just do it from home, you know. Because I remember when I used to be in older bands, we used to go to the studios all the time, and maybe we would get like 1 song done, you know, a week, you know, if maybe even a month, you know. It depends on really everybody's headspace. But with this band, every week we come up with something new, so it's a lot of fun doing everything from home. We don't have to be cluttered in a, you know, little tiny, you know, studio, you know, recording, a rehearsal studio or whatever, and not getting anything done. You know, we're able to sit home and stay focused, which is a lot of fun.
No, I love that. I love how you know, you're talking about, like, even like having that support system with each other, to know that, like, y'all support each other, and, you know, also being y'all's own judges on whether something is good or not, and where you're happy at it, with the recording and everything. You know, I've got to say, I was listening to New Beginnings, and it was absolutely Wonder for each of you, right? Because music is such something that's so transformative and like breaks like kind of all barriers. It allows us to feel emotions that we've never felt, and it can also take us back in time, right? Like to feel certain experiences again. Whether it's lyrically or musically, catharsis happens somewhere for each musician. Where does catharsis happen at for the both of y'all?
I'll let you answer first. I'm going to give you some time on these interviews. I'm the one talking up a storm.
I've never complained that it's you talking, because you're a good talker. You'd make a good pro wrestling manager.
I would, yeah.
It's funny. I've always thought of music as something cathartic, and like I never imagined myself being the hero, but I've always loved the hero's journey. I've always loved reading about ecology. I love trying to figure out what makes people tick, like what makes a person make this decision, and things like that. When it comes to catharsis, I guess all I'm doing is just taking, when it comes to writing the riffs, I'm just taking all the poisons that have affected me in my entire life, whether it was seeking validation from the wrong people, or being bullied, or seeing someone else get picked on and wishing that I had stood up for them, and using music as a form of and sort of as a way to give people hope without having to provide like a false sense of hope. Giving people the inspiration to know that whatever you want to conquer, it's got to come from within. I think that's where catharsis comes into the writing process. I've had very good people in my life, and if I can name them all, it'd all be like on one hand. You know what I mean? Like I could think all the people that have been special enough to have helped me grow as a human being, and get me out of whatever funks, and just keep me focused on being the best that I can be. And I think about how they inspired me, and I use that as a way to write aggressive music, because I kind of call it a beautiful ugliness. It's brought to you in melodic form, but it's so aggressive that it makes you want to just lash out, like if you were in a mosh pit. You know what I mean? Or it's like if you were in a gym, you're hitting a punching bag, you're letting that aggression out. That 10 minutes where you're just punching away and punching away, and then all of a sudden at the end of it, it's like there comes that release, and you're like, okay, I could face the world again. That's how I approach the songwriting process with Severed Angel. And again, I hope I didn't deviate from your question.
I don't know, as far as me, I don't know. I really don't think about that kind of stuff, but I've always wanted to play drums. I guess, and I heard what was the Matt Sorum, I think, from Guns N' Roses, right? He was the drummer for a while.
Yeah, he was also the guy in Velvet Revolver.
Yeah, he kind of feels like, had like the same answer like I would have, really, like when he gets mad or something like that, instead of punching someone, I'd rather sit at the drum set and punch the drum set, and cause damage to that instead of like a wall or something, and that kind of helps me. I'll be at work and it'll just be a bad day, whatever, but I know I have a song to work on with Severed Angel. I can come home and take the aggression out on my drum set.
And to his credit, it's like his speed matches my craziness, so it's perfect.
Yes, the faster the song, the better I feel by the end of the day.
No, that's awesome, and I could totally see that, right? Because that's taking out that aggression like in a healthy way, and like on the drum set, and like because the drums are such an important and integral part of the music itself too. Like and so I don't know why, I just like when you said that, I was like, I could see that, right? Like having a long hard day, and just like how able to release that would be. Like a punching bag. And then I also liked how you were talking about like the poison, taking the poison and putting it into the music, which is like that pure alchemic property, right? Like that Phoenix moment. I believe that each artist or band, right, is almost like a lighthouse for its listeners. And by opening up its raw vulnerability, it actually is like lighting the pathway for its listeners who are going in that world and feeling safe and heard, and to really join them and to stand into their own, vulnerability and authenticity. From the time we're young, we're taught so many lies about ourselves, who we are, what we're supposed to be, things like that, you're to this or you're to that. And, I think it's really beautiful, the kind of music that y'all are putting out there and really that alchemics. So what is kind of y'all's process when y'all like to kind of decide what music y'all use, and what does that writing process look like for the both of you?
We've never really sat down and said we're going to do this type of music, and we knew it would be metal, but it would just be whatever. Like if Lou comes up with a guitar thing, it would just, and I put the drums to it, it would just come out the way it comes out. Nothing that we do is ever going to be a specific genre. Like on the third album that we did, we have a song that's more what do you call that? Like, you're on mute there, buddy. Mute. You're on mute.
That doesn't help. Sorry. I would call it more like almost like a techno pop metal song.
Yeah, it's got a lot of that 80s type.
Don't be scared, people. It's
pop.
good.
No, it's cool. It came out really good. But it's, we wanted to explore a little bit of something different, add a little something to what we do. But yeah, we don't have any kind of like, we're going to be this band, we'll be metal, but we're not going to. That's why our song, like you'll hear thrash in there, and then you hear some progressive stuff in there and hard rock and stuff. So we're a little all over the place, but we make it Severed Angel and make it make sense in a way,
Yeah. Like even a song like Run and Hide, Alex wrote that. And he said, Luke, can you do some noodling over this? And I was like, as I'm hearing it, I'm thinking, I can make this really sound like the Birthday Massacre. And to me, it's like I consider that like our Birthday Massacre-ish song. And then, after that, we wrote Bump in the Night. That was a song that kind of wrote itself because I figured, okay, I have this Motorhead type sound in my head. And then all of a sudden Wayne said in the chorus, he said, do the Misfits thing, the whoa, whoas. And I'm like, that would be really cool. I mean, every song kind of like takes a life on its own. Severed Angel is really just the culmination of the five of us doing what we do best there, and it's great to be in a band where everyone contributes. I mean, on the new album, Skyward, George contributed the title track. I think it's, dare I say, it's the most radio accessible song on the album. I think it would, I wouldn't be surprised if some radio stations were to play it, although I don't know how they feel about bands who release music independently, but screw it. It's good. Give it a chance.
But that's the other thing about us too. Everybody listens to different stuff, black metal, progressive metal, pop rock, power metal, just to name, a bunch of stuff. So we're all over the place in our influences. We just put that into a blender and it just becomes Severed Angel.
Yeah, we're not just influenced by Ghost, because everyone says the Ghost influenced band Severed Angel. I'm like,
yeah,
we just released the cover of Square Hammer. We're Ghost fans, but we're not like, no, we're not trying to be Ghost.
And we almost did another Ghost cover, but I said, you know what, I don't want to be. People are gonna think that we are a Ghost cover band, but that's not what.
Yeah, I'm glad you put the kibosh on that, Wayne.
Yeah. I love that though, because like that really breaks that boundary of music, and it allows like different pieces to come in when everybody has like that different kind of viewpoint, and then they're listening to different music. And because y'all are all so close, it opens up that perfect world for y'all to be able to communicate in this way that just like makes it all make sense, but also brings like so many different pieces that break the boundaries of what we normally, consider like genres, because then I think bands sometimes get genre stuck, which, but what I loved though is when I did listen to it, I could tell like there was different answers kind of everywhere. And it was something that was like, there was a song that could touch you in a spot, no matter where it was in the music, right? And I guess my next question would be for y'all too, because y'all talked a little bit, how did Severed Angel, like the name, become to be?
Mistake. Somebody spelled actually the
autocorrect
spelled the word angel wrong and put angle instead, and I said angle kind of sounds weird, and how do you do any like kind of artwork with that? And Luke came up with the Severed Angle, but it was supposed to be angels. So yeah, angel just sounded better.
I was looking for a synonym for polarizing viewpoint, because around the time that we were forming, it was a time and you could people could say what they want about the divisiveness in the United States. I had worked in mainstream media for 15 years, and trust me, I saw divisiveness from within. Like, God help you if you had your own thought. You were blackballed, and and I appreciated everyone that I worked with. It was kind of hard having a contrarian thought to somebody else and not feeling like you were scrutinized or called problematic. Factoring that into the equation, and also where we were at the time as a country in 2022, I was like, everybody's got a polarizing viewpoints. And, I'm a nerd, so I looked up in the thesaurus, a synonym for polarizing viewpoint, and it came up severed angle. So I typed in, guys, I was looking at polarizing viewpoint and it came up severed angle. And then Alex typed back severed angel. I said, that's it. And all of a sudden, like, the wheels in motion started happening, because I thought of, again, the hero, the person going through the journey, which is the angel that you see on the front cover right here. He's bruised, bloodied, scarred, beaten, but he's still standing over his enemies. And I was like, regardless of your religious affiliation or lack thereof, the idea of the angel as sort of being like a guardian or a protector, I thought that anyone who's a caring individual for somebody could relate to something like that. So, there's no agenda with severed angel. It's just, the idea of, good conquering evil, standing up for yourself. And to me, that worked a lot better than severed angle ever could.
I absolutely loved your explanation for that. That was beautiful, because I believe that
Thank you.
many of us really can relate to that. Being what's beautiful about it, like when you hear music and like when you're going through something, right? And you can relate and connect with the artist. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, one person in this world can understand me. And number two, they've obviously made it to the other side to be able to even put this music there, which gives that light and that hope on that journey. And I feel like you were saying, like, so many could connect to that feeling. You know, like, for instance, my daughter, I like to pick on her a lot on here, but she sometimes struggles to communicate her emotions, right? And what she'll do is, because she doesn't like to be vulnerable, she'll find a song and she'll be like, Mom, this is how I feel. And she'll slide the song to me, like, real slick, real cool, and be like, listen to this. And she'll be like, I wasn't being vulnerable. The artist did it for me. But what's actually even kind of cooler is when I talk to her about it sometimes, is it'll even help her understand what she was feeling, because she couldn't figure out the words or the way to even communicate that. So I think that that's beautiful when you're talking about, like, and I know that you were talking more like on that other side, like, of taking care of people, but also like even this understanding on both sides of the party for the, like, that kind of response, which I think is really beautiful. I want to ask y'all too, like, is there any music that was ever like that for y'all that really helped y'all either understand your emotions, or even like just that you were able to really get lost in, that maybe even is an influence of Severed Angel or isn't?
Yeah. As everybody, well, at least Lou knows, Halloween's my favorite band. And yeah, and it just, anytime I would be in like a really bad mood or something, I know I could just throw on one of their albums and everything would just be fine again. That band just, they're always very positive, with everything that they've ever released. And that band is they just, help me a lot, with if I feel like a crappy way or something. But yeah, that band is just one band that just always, no matter how many times I've listened to the albums or each song, I can just constantly listen to it over and over again. And that definitely influence of Halloween in Severed Angel. Actually, in every band that I've done, there's always some kind of Halloween influence in it.
So I have a question. If somebody hasn't heard of the band before, what would be the first song? Of course, this isn't all of it. Be that first song that you would tell them, this is like your entry song.
I would say Eagle Fly Free from Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2.
Well, are we talking about Halloween or Severed Angel?
Halloween.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the song I started with, and that's the song that like opened up my ears to a whole new genre of heavy metal, and everybody loves that song of Halloween. So It's old songs from the 80s, but I think is when people hear that song, they just like mesmerized by it. I don't know. That song just it's awesome.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm wearing them. Black Sabbath.
Never heard of them.
Nah, I haven't either. I think they'll make it one day.
Are they new?
Kind of. They've been around 50 years, but no one's really heard of them.
Oh.
When I was a kid, my brothers had all the Black Sabbath and Ozzy cassettes, and I think them and Van Halen and Def Leppard and Quiet Riot, because Def Leppard's Pyromania and Quiet Riot's Mental Health were my gateway into being a metal fan, and discovering Eddie Van Halen and having a sound that I could identify with. I explained this on an episode of Outside Review, but real quick, the first time I ever saw Eddie Van Halen on television was when I saw the Jump video on network television. They were showing the music video for it, and I saw this guy with this beautiful doing what he loved doing, and that was playing guitar. Like, I didn't say I wanted to play guitar like him. I said I wanted to feel what he's feeling. I said that at 4 years old. It wasn't until I heard Mean Street off of Fair Warning, which is my favorite album of all time. The intro part to Mean Street is like this rapid, frantic finger tapping that kind of reminded me of the sounds that I heard of like ambulances and cop cars growing up as a kid from Queens, New York. And it's like, that's the sound I identify with. And Black Sabbath just took it over the limit for me, just Tony Iommi's riffs and, Geezer's lyrics and Ozzy's vocals and Bill's drumming, it just, to this day, still my favorite band of all time. And even in the 90s, when it wasn't cool to like metal, it was still the music that helped me through the emotional teenage years, because I just felt like a lot of what they called grunge, or I felt like it was kind of black pilling. It's like, I don't want to hear about how much life sucks. I know life sucks, but give me a reason to, say, screw you, I'm gonna, break the walls down. That's why, and as much as I like a lot of bands that fall under those genres of alternative and grunge, metal for me was the greatest escape.
And there was a lot of good 90s metal, by the way, too. Even though grunge took over, there was a lot of good behind the scenes metal bands.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the older metal bands were putting a lot of really cool stuff out because they were trying to compete with the grunge stuff, but they couldn't. But they were still putting out really good albums. Probably some of the best of their careers. Some of them.
Halloween being one of them. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. And Def Leppard's my first band that I ever really got into, and they are the ones that actually made me want to become a musician, and play drums. And I took guitar lessons for a little while, but hearing Rick Allen, seeing what he went through to, continue to be able to play drums, losing his arm and everything, that like kind of inspired me to, want to be a musician.
No, by the way, I love both of y'all's responses. Like, I love the they're both beautiful, and I guess my next question is, because I'm trying to take us back, like in that memory lane of music, at its core component, like just at its absolute core, what is music to y'all, and what has it been to your life?
Music to me is just an escape from life. It's this escape from every day, like I mentioned earlier, my job and sometimes family. It's just something that's always there. As you can see behind me, I got walls and walls full of music. So it's an everyday thing for me, and I love collecting it. I love listening to it. I love discovering new bands on our podcast. I try to interview new bands as well, and even some old bands too. Yeah, it's just something that I will never get tired of, But sometimes, I do like to kind of get away from it a little bit, but then when I go back to it, I'm like, this is the reason why I can't get rid of music, because it always makes you feel a certain way,
It's my life's blood. I'm very fortunate that I married a woman who's a singer-songwriter and a music teacher. I'm very glad that my daughter was able to do this in perfect rhythm as a baby. And she loves singing. She loves music. I told Wayne this, but I'll say it again. Wayne, she loves him when I play Ride the Sky from Halloween in the car. So
great kid.
Thank you. It's an important factor for all of us. We have a piano in our living room. We have a keyboard here set up for my wife to record her music. I got my guitars and bass behind me. And I was never interested in sports. I liked video games growing up, but I realized guitar was more of a passion for me than anything else. So, I figured let me be at my best by being creative.
It's funny you mentioned sports. I always hated sports. I never liked sports.
I liked the Yankees up until Don Mattingly left.
You know what it is? All the jerky people used to like sports in school.
Yeah, and like the way they treat
See,
the
thank
teams.
Thank you.
The way they treat the teams is like, yeah, that's right, baby. The Yankees, we won. I'm like, when were you ever a Yankee, dude? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
They won, not you. They did.
But I said, if those kind of people are into sports, then I don't want to watch sports.
They're super fans.
Yeah.
That Bulls. Sorry, couldn't help it.
No, because that reminds me, like when you were talking about that. First, I wanted to say I really love the fact that the way y'all said that was almost like air, like music is the air you're breathing, and music's like in your blood. So I thought that was really kind of cool to hear those two like together.
With me, it's to the point of annoyance, really, though, because it's just all day long. It's just music.
Yeah, it's like going to family functions and everyone's like, yeah, I just invested much in the stocks, and I'm like, mm-hmm.
We just recorded another Severed Angel album.
What's the Severed Angle?
No, that's fair. And I wanted to get like kind of comment on like y'all's sports comment, right? Like about how like even like if you take that to the metal community or the music community, is like, I could feel misunderstood and misplaced like almost everywhere in the world. But when I go to a concert, I don't think I've ever seen anybody just like, even in the mosh pit, right? Like people fall down and like almost 7 arms are like ready to like reach back and grab them up almost instantly, and there's so much support, and like it's like, oh, even though we're from all walks of life and we don't know anything, I recognize your band shirt, you recognize my band shirt, we've got something in common here. And we both came to this place like to have a good time. Like, what are y'all's thoughts even about like that in the community?
Yeah, I agree. And I don't go to too many shows. I'm not a huge concert guy. But like in my real life, I don't really find too many people that listen to the same stuff that I listen to. So it's kind of hard for me to like talk about music and stuff. People at work, I show them my band stuff and they're not really into it. So I kind of like give up with that already. But like Lou, I think he lives, near me and everything. We always hang out once in a while. And but yeah, the online
kids
community,
are friends too.
Our kids, well, maybe.
Nah.
But yeah, I'm trying to stay away from Facebook for a while, but I do a lot of social media stuff. I talk to so many people online because that's the only place I can really feel like I have people that I can relate to, with music wise, at least, So I do go to shows once in a while. Sometimes somebody will see a shirt, or even if I go to a grocery store and somebody will see me wearing like an Iron Maiden shirt or something, and somebody go, say something about it or whatever. So, it's cool, The metal community sometimes can be cool. Sometimes I have a problem with them, but for the most part, they're good people.
I just have a problem with the gatekeepers. Like,
yes, those are the ones that
I'm not the kind of person who sees, like, if I saw you, Crimson, on the street and you were wearing a Borknagar shirt, I'm not going to ask you, name me 3 Borknagar songs. I'm like, okay, you know what? You bought a Borknagar shirt. You supported the band. Good for them. Good for you. Rock it. Enjoy it. To each their own. Because when that happened to me growing up, gatekeepers in the scene, I was like, why? I don't know if we could curse on this show, so I'm keeping it abbreviated. I don't have to prove anything to anybody, and I'm not out seeking for your validation. So, like, I've been to concerts with Wayne recently. I've gone with my best friend Alan. I took him we went to Metallica and Ghost last year, and we brought my eldest niece, who that and Rammstein are her 2 favorite bands. So I usually, she's my concert buddy. And the cool thing is she knows she's safe with me, and I know around her I won't do anything stupid, because, you got D-bags in every scene. No environment ever truly is safe, because, in a group of 500, you're bound to get one schmuck out of all of them. So you just got to know to avoid that like the plague, but for the most part, I'm friends with a lot of the musicians out here on the island, and they're all wonderful people. I love going to support them. They've supported Severed Angel by buying CDs and merch. So, it's it's cool when you know the good ones, your respective scenes.
Oh, yeah. Makes things a lot easier.
Mhm.
Deal people
Yeah.
that.
No, and that's actually a really fair point that too, is that it does really kind of depend on number one, who you're going to see, and number two, the people that are there in that community and at that time. Because, with so many people, you are bound to run into at least sometimes one asshole,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So I really love that point. Um,
I'll never forget one
speaking,
of the shows I did another Halloween thing here. I went to a Halloween show and I was so happy because I got to get right up front. It was a very small place in New York, and it was an awesome show. But the guy behind me just kept pounding on my back. I don't know if he did it purposely or just it was really that crowded or whatever. But I was like, God, this guy's got to be behind me.
Somebody spiked his Miller.
Something I don't know. And
no,
I had
no,
to go.
that's
I had to
fair.
go home that night and play drums and just get my aggression out.
Hey, best way to do it though, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, we were talking a little bit too about like some of the trials, like the hardships of being a musician and like getting yourself known. Or even what has helped y'all, you know, the life of a musician is hard, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
work and a lot of money, and so unless you're like purely in love with it, it's really hard to follow, right?
Oh yeah.
So my question is like, number one, what was that moment for both of you that you were like, this is the life that I want to follow? This could be real for me. And number two, when it gets hard, what helps you maintain that focus to stay true to that passion?
Hmm. I don't know if I ever found out that this is the path I wanted to take. Mostly I do it as a hobby. It's become that. Unfortunately, when I was younger and when I did start playing drums, oops, it was in the late '80s, early '90s, or whatever, and we didn't have all these digital things, streaming and all that stuff, and people just able to download music. And it was a lot easier back then, I think, to be a band and to play shows and do all that stuff. And nowadays, it's completely different. It's hard to book shows, and you have to have so many. There's always some kind of rules at these places where they won't let you play unless you either pay to play or have these many followers or listeners or whatever. It Unfortunately, it's just a hobby, and it sucks to be that way, but I want to continue doing it anyway because it's something that I've always wanted to do. I did give it up after the band that we mentioned earlier, that Lou, we became friends. That band lasted about 10, 13 years or something like that. We did an album. And then after that, did a couple shows. And then 6 years after that band, I stopped playing for like 5 or 6 years because I kind of need that break. I just kind of got tired of doing the music thing. But then I also got the itch to play it again because I would see my drum set sitting there collecting dust, and I would want to really play. And then I started another band, which I still do. And then that's how Severed Angel got to be, because that band, we did an album and we took a break with that one and Severed Angel. And I continued to want to make more music. And that's how Severed Angel started.
I had almost lived the dream about 20 years ago. I had the contract right in front of me. The only thing is I wasn't ready to sell my soul, because it was pretty much like label owns your publishing, label owns your copyright, label owns your likeness, label owns your logo, label will pay for advertising, of which you have to pay back with 50% interest. And I'm like, great, I'm going to be working the fry at McDonald's for the rest of my life.
You sold your soul to me, though. You
Yeah,
can't leave
but
the band.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, you're as broke as I am, Wayne. And it just got to a point where I was like, did I want to be a rock star or did I want to be a musician? And I never wanted to be a rock star because I like my privacy. And being able to have this conversation with you, Crimson, what you're doing with me and Wayne, we like doing press. We like getting to meet new people. We like exposing the band to different audiences because it builds up content for your channel, and hopefully in turn it builds up listeners for our music. But I never looked at music as a means to an end. If it ends up becoming that way, that's a blessing. And I played with some wonderful musicians back in the day, and they were in some of the crappiest bands I'd ever been part of. I'd rather be with like-minded individuals where each of us contribute equally and something in addition to just writing music. Like, Alex mixes and masters this stuff. I mean, the dude's a prodigy when it comes to audio production. You know, he's incredible at what he does. You know, George has had so many years of songwritings under his belt. You know, Mark had ideas, you know, on keyboards that, you know, turn into songs that are some of the best that we've ever written. You know, and Wayne is great because he's a good arranger. As a drummer, he's a good listener. He listens to what everyone's doing, and he plays parallel to what everything is doing. And he never plays over, and he'll always be like, we could take that part out. You know, like he's a good editor. You know, and I do the social media. You know, so if you ever see those reels that are being bombarded on your social media page, you're welcome. You know, it's
You're
like
not playing
everyone.
a guitar either, though. You're okay.
I'm okay, you know, but everybody contributes something different, and in the end, it's still fun for us.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we never sold a CD or if we never got a stream, that's okay because we're still proud of what we released, you know, and Severed Angel is part of us, but it's not who defines us as men, as people. You know, we define ourselves through our family and our friendships with each other. You know, it's that's the reason why there's no drama. There really isn't. I mean, it sounds very boring, but I kind of like it that way because I'd rather be productive, be a bunch of drama queens in a band, you know?
And also too helps that we're a little older, you know, unfortunately, some of us older than others, but if we were younger, I think there would be a lot more problems because back when I had the other bands, you know, we were younger, you know, we were in our late 20s, early 30s, and you know, things happen and people argue and stuff like that. We don't really argue. We, you know, make fun of each other more than anything. And,
chops like with the best of them.
Constantly. So, you know, that's what keeps this band fun, you know.
Yeah, it's good natured. And it's kind of cool because it's like, you know, we don't, because back in the day, I mean, everything that was that you read about that was accessible, sex, drugs, all that stuff, alcohol, it was there, and I didn't like it. None of us are into the excesses. The only excess that we want is sound. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really corny, but it is what it is.
And then trying to get your band out there and trying to keep up the you know, keep up with the algorithms and all this stuff, and you know, keeping your Spotify numbers up and all this crap and stuff like that. It's tough, you know, especially on bands starting out. It's real tough. You can have as many publicists as you want, you know. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. It's just really, you know, up in the air. You don't know what's ever going to happen. Like we have one video, it finally hit over what, 12,000 views.
13. We just hit 13
views, and that's the A New Beginning one. And then the other ones kind of, you know, they're doing good, but not as good as that one. So it's hard to keep up, you know, those views, you know.
But the crazy thing is you never know where your reach is going until you look at your analytics from your website. And then I'm finding out that people in China and Russia love our music. And I'm just like, I'm not going there anytime soon, but thank you, China and Russia, for liking our music.
I love that though, because I love what you were saying though about the analytics, about like you never really know where like really your stuff's going out to. You know,
and he works his butt off. He does a lot of the social medias. I mean, he's basically doing all of it now because I got tired of doing it. So it's all on him, but it's a lot of work, you know, because one minute you think you got the algorithm figured out, and the next minute it's changed already. So it's really tough, really tough.
Yeah, there's almost always something, you know, new that's came out, or something different's changed with something to change the algorithm, to change everything, which makes it difficult. You know, but I loved the answer about like when we're talking about like success and like other bands, you know, and I guess maybe even I should have worded my question more carefully, because I believe like success is kind of what y'all been talking about this whole time, about loving your music and loving like what you're putting out there, and loving that, like, you know, when you've had a long, hard day going and, you know, just beating the shit out of your drums and just like having that moment and having that catharsis on your drums, or like, you know, spending time with your family, but having music being that outlet, you know, it really kind of helps us release things, you know, that we aren't able to release in our normal, like, everyday life, you know?
Yeah, and that's why we do it, because we know we have fun, and we like doing that stuff, you know. It's better than working on our regular jobs. If we got paid to do Severed Angel, like we do with our regular jobs, it would be a different story. But unfortunately, we don't.
We're open for commission. Damian Leone, put us on Terrifier 3.
Yes, we're trying to get on Terrifier, but I ain't gonna happen.
We really want to get on Terrifier 3.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Are y'all gonna try?
Well,
I'm sorry.
She said
Are you
we
gonna try?
I did try, but Wayne just said, Lou, stop it. The campaign's not working. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Come on, every day, the same campaign.
Well, because you never know which one's going to hit people.
You never know. You never know.
That's the thing. It's when it comes to social media, it's a total crapshoot. So,
Like a lottery. It just has to land on the right person's page for like 5 seconds.
Right.
And then once it goes from there, it just like it takes off.
Yeah. And
either that or it could be very annoying. So you got to watch it,
But, we're very grateful for everyone that's given us a chance. We're grateful to Metalpedia for voting us Album of the Year amongst 29 other albums. But, I mean, still to be in that category is, a really big honor. Our friend Rob Vieira, who has a huge YouTube channel, he put our album as number 4 of 2023 above, metal, classic metal bands like Metal Church and even Metallica. And I was just like, we didn't pay Ralph to say that, and the fact that he even thought so highly of our album, not to mention he's on the introduction.
It could have been why.
no, because he would have done it even if he didn't like the music. He would have done it for us because he's our friend. But
no, he actually doesn't like it. So
he's been a very vocal supporter, and we're very grateful to Ralph Vieira. Just a good guy.
Yeah. There's a lot of good people out there. Sometimes they're hard to find, but they're there.
This is true. I want to make sure I honor y'all's time and give us a little bit of time to talk about the album again. But so my last question for y'all is, what's one thing that y'all know now that you wish you had have known sooner?
I don't know.
I guess I wish I had the confidence to have done this earlier.
I was just going to say the same thing. Yes, that too. And then learn to record from home sooner too, because I was always kind of afraid of it. I always saw people doing it online, and I'm like, I got a drum set, I can't just plug it in. I got to get microphones and all this stuff. So it was a little scary at first, but I wish I would have done a lot sooner, because God knows what we could have done by now. If I would have started 10 years ago.
Yeah, and Alex is about 10 years younger than me and Wayne, but he has been so incredibly helpful and patient with us as we went this direction. I mean, he made it possible so that I could record from home without any issue. I mean, he gave me his interface that he doesn't use, and he pretty much said, don't go in the red, no pun intended, because In the Red's one of our songs on the first album, and just really made me feel confident in my playing, and he's never had to make me redo something, and that's a good feeling.
And there's one thing about this band, we have not, there is one song that I think you came up with, Lou, that we did not use, but every other song that we have done, or Lou's came up with, or anybody's come up with, we've pretty much used it. It's been on every album so far. So we haven't thrown anything really away.
Well, the song that he's talking about has a 5/8 signature to it.
And I can't play 5/8, so I didn't want that song. No, I didn't want to bring that up.
It doesn't matter. I mean, we have other stops. We have other.
But there's never there hasn't other besides that song. That's the only song that we've thrown away. It's not really thrown away. It could be used at some other point. But
we'll revisit it.
Yeah, we'll revisit at some point.
You'll get better, Wayne. Don't worry.
Yeah. But like I said, we haven't stopped recording since we started Severed Angels. So
yeah, and we're really looking forward to the release of Skyward on May 3rd. And so far everyone that's heard it has loved it.
Have you heard Skyward, Princess?
Yes.
Have you heard Skyward yet?
No.
All right. Goodbye.
How come no one sent her the album?
I got the first one.
Ben didn't send you the other album, probably because I didn't tell him to promote it yet. He must have. Did he promote the single though? You got the single, "Tyrant on a Throne"?
No, so I really just got the first EPKs for the first album for Severed Angel was what I was sent. So like I listened to like The Red and Dreamland and New beginning.
After we get
So
off,
I'm sorry, guys.
That's
No,
okay.
no.
That album's still good. It's all right. It's only
How
not
about
even a year
this?
old.
After we get off the air,
We'll sit here and
give us
listen to the new album.
give us your email. We'll send you the album so that
Yes.
you can access all the tracks. And if you'd like to do a review of it on your album and your track by track, go ahead.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It is going. It is
No,
going out.
because
But
as all
we'll
the
be
music
sending
that he's. I'm sorry.
I said Ben will be sending it out. I told him to start. I thought he already sent it out. So is that right?
No, I'm so sorry. Unless I missed it on the list, but no, I didn't. The only one I saw was like the first album, and then the rest of it was like gosh, she sent me like a list. Sorry, I guess I'll talk to you all about that after.
Yeah.
No, no worries. But
But
yeah,
so the
we
new
do.
one, it's coming out though, right on the 3rd, May 3rd,
May
correct?
3rd. Yes. Yep. It's called Skyward.
What are y'all the most excited about that coming out?
Just releasing it because it is a very fun album. It's a little different from the first one, but there's a lot more faster songs in this one. There's no ballads on this one. I don't remember it.
I mean, the title
Kind
track
of.
is
More of a
popish,
rocky,
but not a
popish song.
yeah.
But
It's like heavy metal gym blossoms.
Oh, thanks. But yeah, I love every single song on here, and it is also maybe a little bit more progressive on this album as well. But there's just so many good stuff, good songs on here. A lot of really good leads by Lou. A lot of good stuff by a lot of good. Actually, Alex's vocals on the first single that we just released, "Tyrant on the Throne." Alex was just getting over COVID, and he sang that song. Like that was the first thing he sang. And his voice wasn't really there yet, but he maybe tried it once or twice or whatever, and it just came out. It was one of my favorite vocal performances of his, at that time so far, and it just came out so great. And that's why we released that single too, because it just made a really great first single. And you didn't see the video, but the video is an animated video, and we had our friend Mandir make an animated video for us because he has another band as well called Frostbite BC, and they're kind of like this Christmas band, stoner band. Very cool guy, and he makes all these weird animations. And I'm like, can you make a Severed Angel animated video? And he did. He actually put the band in there as well, and made a whole storyboard for it, and became a really, really cool. And I just hope a lot of people get to see that video because he put a lot of work into it, and the song's awesome. It's one of my probably top favorite Severed Angel songs, so far. Even though we've ripped the album 4 already, it's still one of my favorite songs. I love the playing on it, and just everybody just did a great job on that song. But we do a great job on every song that we do. So what am I saying?
Yeah, we don't hate anything we've put out yet. And crazy thing, not yet. The crazy thing is we've been sitting on this album for a year. So it's good to finally release it. I could tell you right now, for me, the inspiration for what I contributed, and this is not to ask for sympathy, but at the time that we were writing it, I have a dog, my Shih Tzu, Aloysius, who's my.
Do you see a pattern here? There's always something going on with Lou every time we record it now.
But you know what though? From great conflict comes great inspiration.
That's right.
So at the time he was dealing with cancer. Yeah. So as I was taking him to chemotherapy, again, processing the negative and putting it towards something positive, such as saving his life and recording killer songs. So, that was once again, this album lets me deal with it. So, music is the great therapy.
It's a great healer.
Yes.
And unfortunately, with my other band, his father was dealing with cancer too. So unfortunately, I get involved with all my friends to record music when something's going on in their lives. It just happens that way. I don't know why, but
we're okay. We make
fine.
It through the rain.
Fine. We make it through.
My dog's still alive. So, and the only thing that I could say with Severed Angels music, there's no room for black pilling. We're not here to depress you. Okay, we hope to inspire. We hope to give you hope. And no matter what, we hope you enjoy it. That's it.
I think Skyward's very uplifting sounding compared to the first album. The first one's a little dark. Skyward's a little, like the title kind of says, it's moving upwards. So
it's kind of a continuation of With Wings Anew, because With Wings Anew itself is very upward. So if anything, the song With Wings Anew on the first album is indicative of kind of where we go with Skyward. And for the record, Crimson, the first album was written in sequence.
Okay, that makes so much sense when I was listening to it. Okay, so like in a story sense, correct?
Not so much in a story sense, but like with the exception of Dogs of War, everything else was kind of written as the sequence on the album is. So In the
Okay.
Red was, you know, the next song that we worked on.
It wasn't
And
intentional, it just happened that way.
it just happened that way. And we were trying to like figure out a sequencing for the album. And we're like, kind of leave it alone as is, you know? And yeah, it's just funny how some of the songs came about because, like, a song like Wide Awake in Screamland, that was George's idea. And I said, this kind of reminds me of like old sleazy 80s rock and roll, which is, kind of the era that he's from. And we made it sound like Severed Angel. And then as a joke, I said, I'm going to write a thrash song. A week later, Alex was like, so where's that thrash song? And I'm like, oh, crap, you're holding me to it. And all of a sudden, the song number 8 came out of nowhere. I've heard people like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah, if you notice this, kind of like a pattern, well, not a pattern, but the album has like a flow to it where it's kind of like mellow in the beginning, but then as it gets towards like the middle and towards the end, it gets aggressive. It just sounds like we're pissed off by the end of this album, which just worked out really well, I thought. And that song, well, go ahead.
Pissed off, but in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. And the song, A New Beginning, really wasn't supposed to be meant as a ballad. If you listen to the guitars, they're kind of like thrashing a little bit. And I love the melody of the guitar lines that Lou put together. And I'm like, this sounds like a ballad, and the way I put the drums down, it flowed so well as being a power ballad type song that it just came out to be like one of my favorite songs on that first album. It's just it just came out so good.
The biggest problem that we find ourselves having is people don't know how to pigeonhole us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we kind of don't want to be pigeonholed. You can call us prog, you can call us power metal, you can call us gothic metal, whatever you want to call it. I mean, to me, it's just melodic metal, and we're not bound by our influences and we're not bound to any one style. We kind of find bands like that boring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like back in the 80s when you would put on an album and there would be so many different influences on each song almost. And every song would sound different from each other. And nowadays, it's almost like everybody just writes every song the same way. Every song, you can't tell one song from the other on some bands, not every single band, but a lot of bands, I can put an album on and I'll forget it as soon as I'm done listening to it, And I hope that we could accomplish not doing that with Severed Angel. And I think we did because I can remember these songs, and we recorded them like a year and a half or 2 years ago, whatever. And I still remember them. So that's the one thing that I love about the way we write our music. Every song is its own entity, has its own feel. Or at least I think, you remember them.
There's a lot of self-awareness when it comes to the writing process. I was a big fan of what they call the metalcore genre that was happening in the early 2000s. I loved bands like Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall. I love Lamb of God. I still love those bands to this day. But then you kind of think about the bands that were offshoots of them, the ones that came in their wake. And all of a sudden it became like, okay, how many breakdowns can we put in one song? It kind of became like a self-parody almost. And, we kind of try to avoid that. Like if a song gets a breakdown.
We're not supposed to do the breakdowns? I just put one in.
When we do a breakdown, there's meaning behind it.
Okay, all right.
There's meaning behind it.
Because we do have breakdowns. There are breakdowns in some songs. I'm like, it needs to be there.
Yes. Wait till you hear the song Siddipati.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Yeah. What Wayne said, Lou, can you write a closer sort of like Stradivarius? And I sent in Siddipati because the inspiration behind that song. So my daughter's really into like science and engineering, and she likes seeing how things work. So one time I took her to a children's museum and they had a dinosaur exhibit. She saw the animatronics and got freaked out because she thought they were going to eat us. And I said, no, sweetheart, they're not real. But she was just like, they're not. And they looked so real to her. So as we were going further into the exhibit, we saw animatronic and it was called the Siddipati. And in parentheses, it said, Pyre Lord. And I was like, I think I have an idea for a closing song for Skyward. And I told the guys this, and they said, okay, show us what you got. And I sent it to them, and Wayne's like, well, this doesn't remind me of Stradivarius one bit, but I like it. Let's do it. So, it
But the
was,
song's not about the dinosaur.
it's not.
Unfortunately.
But the name came from what I saw from the dinosaur, but apparently the name Siddhipati itself has different meanings, even in Buddhist culture. So, you hear the song, and
it's a very Judas Priest, Halloween, like a Dragon Force, I guess, inspired song. It's a very
speaking of Dragon Force, the song Live Your Imagination.
yeah, that too.
For anyone who listens to that song, I did not mean to out Dragon Force. It just happened that way.
No, that's awesome. Now y'all are talking about it, though, and I'm like, I'm so excited to hear the album. Like, just to kind of just hear, because like what I did hear was like absolutely phenomenal, and I loved the
Thank
way
you.
it was arranged and played, and it was just you. And I loved like what you were talking about, like how it wasn't supposed to be a ballad, but it really sounded like one.
Right.
And like, you know, I loved how it was hard, but yet there was also always, almost in every song, still had that melodic kind of like feel to it. And I also like what you were talking about how like no songs were the same, right? I feel like nowadays everybody's attention spans like 5 seconds long,
You give them
and
too
so
much
really,
credit.
my bad. But like with that, it really makes it stand out when everything it brings its own personality to each song, almost like you're meeting a different entity with each song, kind of, if music is an entity, right?
Yeah.
It gives you like, number one, different connections and different feelings, but it also keeps you on this page of like, ooh, like on the edge of your seat, like, I don't know what I'm gonna expect next from this band. Like, what are they gonna do next?
All right. Definitely.
Which is like one of the most exciting feelings, like when like, that new song comes out and you're like, like, what is it gonna be from them? What have they done this time?
Yeah, and I hope we do that. To me, I think we do, because it's always something that's conscious in my head, because like you mentioned, a lot of the bands are just putting out the same song over and over again, and I don't think we're like that. I think everything you can hear something different in each song, and it's memorable too, and the melodies too. That's another thing. Like I like a lot of pop music, pop rock, and stuff like that, and I always want to hear something you can sing to, and if you can sing to it, it's going to be a good song, whether it's a heavy metal song or whatever, or a thrash song. As long as it has some kind of melody in there or something memorable, it'll make a great song.
I think Skyward is the direction that we needed to go to grow as not just as a band, but as songwriters and producers of our respective sound. I was so darn proud of the first album when we were completed. The fact that we accomplished Skyward shortly after that, I was just like, I never expected this to happen, but inspiration in Severed Angel, like it's like clockwork. I'm never short of an idea. The only thing I'm short of is time, because there's not enough hours in a day and there's not enough coffee in the world to keep me going. But, we only have ourselves to answer to, and we're already an album ahead with a second album in the being written. As long as we continue to create stuff that we're proud of, I don't see any end. And if anyone's going to say, well, you're not a real band because you don't tour, GFY.
What do you think about bands that don't tour?
What do I think about them?
Yeah.
I think that to be quite honest, to me, music is, since I'm looking at it less from an artist perspective and more from a listener perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love live music. There's something that I love about being able to be in that atmosphere and be in that energy. But I also love that touring puts so much pressure on bands, and it's so hard on the traveling, and it costs so much. And like, in terms of like, even as a therapist, like mental health perspective wise, like that's really hard on people. And so I love the fact that there have been bands now that used to be the way, that they had to go out and promote their music, and they had to show people in different areas what their music was to get radio time and things like that. But I think that it's really awesome, though, that bands have been able to remain like off tour and to sit there, because I feel like it actually puts them like in this different headspace to where they get to write like what they actually want to write and feel what they actually want to feel, instead of like this different pressure that's put on the other way. And so I think that music is any music that an artist has written, there's an old saying, it says that the job of an artist is like that of a lover, to awaken yourself to the parts of yourself that you never knew existed, and to show you a world that you never knew. And to me, with bands and with artistry, as long as you're painting that picture and that artistry of your soul, because you're putting an essence of your soul out there, I think that what's beautiful of that is the artistry. And I think when we start put limit on how that artistry has to be displayed, whether it's on tour or not on tour or any of those things, or like I have to get signed or anything like that, it almost takes away from some of the beautiful magic that happens in artistry when we just let art be art, form its beautiful magic.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered the question. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. I'm very proud to say that through Severed Angel, we've been able to siphon off our talents with some of our peers. For example, I'm so proud of Wayne and Alex because they also have another album that came out last week with Ken Pike, the band Absalon, the new album Bloodseed. I have to be honest with you, I don't know which album I like better, this or our album Skyward, but I think neck and neck, these are the two best albums of 2024, in my opinion. I've also branched out and worked with a friend of mine, Matt Michelow, who does his project's called Michelow Beats. I wrote like a salsa Latin guitar type thing for him, which he did a dance beat too. So it was kind of cool to know that some people were dancing to something that I wrote. We just love to create, and we love working with other people who appreciate our talents as much as we enjoy working with each other.
Yeah, definitely. We don't need no stinking tours.
Like you were saying, they're like, and I think that that's what makes artistry so beautiful is the way that it actually allows the person to express themselves. And I think that in its true, like, authentic form is what gives us hope and what gives us the, when I say that, that others can do it too, isn't like this, oh, like, I want to be like one of the top, musicians in the world, but like, if I have a dream and something that I love, I can still express that and share that with the world and help, as a therapist, even I'm bound by space and time, right? Like I got one person per hour. But as a musician, even right now, somebody could be listening to any of your songs right now, and you've never even met them. And you're able to touch pieces of their heart and soul that would have never been touched otherwise. And so I really love the idea of like how y'all are saying that you love to create and just being with each other, because I feel like when you're in that space, it almost creates this extra layer of freedom that allows something so beautiful to blossom, then doesn't have constraints or anyone kind of saying what has to be done. And then just something absolutely beautiful, like what I've listened to y'all put out, is. So I really appreciate, and I really loved that about listening to y'all's album.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, like some people want to get on that record label, whatever. I mean, we got on a record label and we ended up getting off
overrated
that record label. Overrated do nothing record label. And you don't really need to be on a record label nowadays. You can sell your stuff on Bandcamp like we do, or on your website or whatever. And you don't need influences from a record label too, because they'll get in your way. They'll tell you to do this and make a song that does this or whatever. And I don't want that. We want to just do what we want to do.
We make our own merch. We put it up on TeePublic. Other people could do it on Redbubble or anywhere they want. And we like the shirts that TeePublic has sent out to people who have supported us. And I've seen the shirts on others, and I'm just like, oh, cool shirt.
Yeah, there's so many things unsigned bands can do nowadays. They don't always have to go buy thousands of shirts that they might not sell. You got things like Lou mentioned, TeePublic, and you don't have to pay anything. I mean, it's print on demand, but they're actually really good shirts.
Yeah,
I wear my shirts constantly. They don't get ruined or they don't get cracked or anything. They're very nice looking shirts.
The only overhead we have is our CDs.
That's about it. And they're almost gone. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. And, congratulations. I know that y'all are super excited about releasing this on May 3rd. I am super excited about it as well. And I
Thank
am
you.
here for y'all's ride. I am here for the Severed Angel train, man. I'm telling you. You know,
Well, just
so
so
I'm
people don't
so
get
excited
confused,
about
that
it.
Skyward's getting released May 3rd. The debut album was
Yes.
released last year already. So yeah.
Yes,
Another
yes.
funny story is the first album was released May 2nd. And for some stupid reason, we want to keep it in May. So May of next year will be the third album, probably.
Okay, so like May 2nd, then May 3rd, then May 4th, maybe.
Probably May
I'd go
4th
with
of
it.
next year. Yeah. We're gonna go up.
We'll have more albums than Guns N' Roses in 6 years,
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
but no
Um,
stadium dates.
And they'll be better. They'll be better.
But yeah, no, I totally want to honor your guys' time. So is there anything else y'all want to let the audience know before we go? And it's been an honor speaking with y'all today, by the way.
We've had a lot of fun here. We don't want to leave. What else you
Yeah.
got?
You're like one of the nicest, most genuine hosts that we've ever spoken with. And you have an awesome personality, and we appreciate the engagement. We appreciate you. And for any of your viewers and subscribers, give us a chance. You got nothing to lose. And for anyone out there who may be suffering from anxiety, hey, listen, you're not alone. Listen to a good song, help you get out of it, and find a way to take that negativity and turn it into something positive, and just keep going, because life is a beautiful thing. Okay. You don't want to take it for granted. And we hope one day we get to see or hear your art.
Yeah, definitely. And plug the websites, severedangel.com.
Severedangel.com. From there, you can link to our Spotify, our YouTube, our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok,
the Bandcamp, where you can order our CDs. And
our OnlyFans. What? Who said that?
OnlyFans.
I know OnlyFans.
Soon to come.
No. Me doing the Pee Wee Herman dance. Just kidding.
And then and then Lou mentioned my other band, the Absalon. You can get that at No Life Till Metal Records.com. And I also have another band, Project Resurrect. You can get that album and it's on sale for $5 right now. So get it while it's still cheap. Projectresurrect.bandcamp.com. So get that as soon as you can, because they're selling out quickly. So it's only $5.
And the pre-orders for Skyward are still going on.
Yep.
You can either go directly to severedangel.bandcamp.com, or you can go to severedangel.com, go on the homepage, and the link is there to take you to the Bandcamp. But also check out the other pages on the homepage, on the website.
Yeah,
I think you'll like what you see.
And if anybody wants stuff autographed, we can do that as well. So, and then also take a little longer, but it'll get to you eventually. And then also me and Lou do a podcast, Rat Salad Review, every Wednesday night, at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. So it's live. So you can find us on there, or any Spotify or any streaming service.
And don't worry, guys, if y'all didn't catch all that, I'm going to make sure I leave it all down in the links in the description below so that you can check them out, because I promise you're going to love them. And, thank you so much for your kind words. I think that y'all have been like some of the sweetest people I've interviewed. So I truly appreciate y'all. And thank you so much for y'all's vulnerability and just like the rawness of everything on here. I truly appreciate y'all being good sports with me. Y'all have been amazing and so easy to talk to. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate y'all.
No problem. Thanks for having us.